The Arizona sun blazed overhead as Marcus Carter stepped out of his modest SUV. He adjusted the sleeves of his simple hoodie, surveying the grand showroom of Elite Auto Imports. The luxury dealership gleamed, its glass panels reflecting the endless line of high-end cars. Marcus had acquired this dealership just weeks ago, but today he was here in disguise. No press, no formal introductions. He wanted to see how the staff treated customers, especially those who didn't fit the typical luxury car buyer profile. As he walked through the entrance, the icy blast of air conditioning clashed with the heat outside. The scent of polished leather and fresh wax filled the space. Employees milled around in crisp suits, engaged in friendly chatter. The moment Marcus stepped in, however, the atmosphere shifted. Behind the front desk, Rick Dawson, the general manager, noticed him instantly. His sharp blue eyes flickered with skepticism. Dressed in an expensive suit, Rick had been running the dealership for years, and he prided himself on keeping out time wasters. Marcus took a slow walk past a sleek black Lamborghini, letting his fingers lightly graze the hood. Rick's voice rang out, laced with condescension. "Sir, can I help you?" Marcus turned, offering a polite smile. "Just looking around." Rick's smile was tight. "We cater to serious buyers here. These cars, they're not cheap." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I see." Rick's stance shifted, his patience wearing thin. "If you're looking for something more affordable, I can point you in the right direction." Marcus simply nodded, his expression unreadable. This was exactly what he needed to see. Marcus remained calm, his eyes scanning the showroom as if deciding which car to buy. But Rick Dawson wasn't having it. "Sir," Rick said, his tone sharper now, "these are high-end vehicles. Unless you're here for a real purchase, I'll have to ask you to leave." A few other sales associates paused their conversations, watching the interaction. One of them, Lisa, a young saleswoman with a sharp eye for detail, furrowed her brows. She had seen this routine before, Rick sizing up customers based on their appearance. Marcus, unfazed, gestured toward a red Ferrari parked near the center. "What's the price on that one?" Rick smirked. "More than you can afford." A soft chuckle escaped from another employee nearby, emboldening Rick. "Look," he said, stepping closer, "I don't want to waste your time. Or mine. Maybe you should try a dealership that sells, more budget-friendly cars." Lisa shifted uncomfortably, clearly disagreeing with Rick's approach. But she remained silent. Marcus tilted his head, amused. "So, you're assuming I can't afford any of these cars?" Rick let out a short, dismissive laugh. "No offense, but you don't exactly look like our usual clientele." A long pause filled the air. The tension was thick. Marcus sighed, pretending to relent. "All right," he said. "I wouldn't want to waste anyone's time." Rick clapped his hands together. "Great, let me walk you out." He didn't just ask Marcus to leave, he escorted him out, as if making a statement. As the glass doors swung shut behind Marcus, a slow smile spread across his face. Rick had no idea what was coming next. Marcus stood outside the dealership for a moment, taking a deep breath. He looked back through the glass doors, watching Rick return to his desk with an air of arrogance. But Marcus wasn't leaving, not yet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, dialing a number. "Hey, I'm here," he said. "Yeah, it's exactly like we expected." A sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the curb moments later. The driver stepped out and opened the door for Marcus. He slid in, calm and composed, as the car eased into the lot. Inside the dealership, Lisa watched through the window, frowning. Rick?" she called. "That guy's back in a Rolls-Royce." Rick scoffed. "Oh, really? Let me guess, he stole it?" He laughed, shaking his head. The showroom doors opened, and this time, Marcus walked in like he owned the place, because he did. Rick's smirk wavered as Marcus approached the center of the dealership. Other employees were starting to notice, whispering among themselves. Then the general manager, Mr. Holloway, rushed out from the back office, his face pale. "Mr. Grant!" he exclaimed. "Welcome, sir!" Rick's expression twisted in confusion. "Mr. Grant?" Marcus smiled, extending a hand. "Good to see you, Holloway." Lisa's eyes widened. The other employees froze. Rick took a step back, his confidence finally cracking. "Wait, what's going on?" Marcus turned to him, that same amused smile still on his face. "Oh," he said casually, "I thought you should know. I just bought this dealership." Rick's face drained of color, and the real show was just about to begin. The dealership fell into complete silence. Every employee, every customer, everyone was staring. Rick's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at Marcus, then at Mr. Holloway, then back again. "What?" he stammered. Marcus folded his arms, his expression calm but firm. "You heard me. As of this morning, I own this dealership, and you just kicked me out of my own business." A nervous laugh escaped Rick's lips. No, this has to be some kind of joke." Lisa, still standing nearby, checked her phone. A new email had just come in, official dealership ownership transfer papers. Her eyes widened as she looked up at Marcus. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's real." Mr. Holloway cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Marcus Grant is the new owner. The sale finalized this morning." Rick staggered backward, bumping into a display car. His confidence was completely gone. No way." Marcus took a step closer. "Tell me, Rick," he said. "What was it you said earlier? That I couldn't afford a car like this? That I should leave?" His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was undeniable. Employees shifted uncomfortably. Some of them already knew what was coming. Rick forced a chuckle. "Look, Mr. Grant, this was all a misunderstanding. If I had known..." Marcus held up a hand. "No need to explain, Rick. I saw everything I needed to see." Rick swallowed hard. He was in trouble. And Marcus? He was just getting started. Rick wiped the sweat from his forehead. The confidence he had earlier was gone. The other employees stood frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. Marcus turned to Lisa. "Tell me, Lisa, how long has Rick worked here?" Lisa hesitated, then answered, "About 5 years." Marcus nodded. "And in those 5 years, has he always treated customers this way?" Lisa glanced at Rick, then back at Marcus. "Honestly, yes. He's turned away a lot of people." Rick's face turned red. "That's not true," he snapped. "I've made this dealership money. I know who's serious about buying and who's just wasting our time." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And you decided I was wasting your time?" Rick opened his mouth, but no words came out. Marcus shook his head. "See, Rick, a business like this doesn't just sell cars. It builds relationships. It earns trust. And the way you just treated me, someone you assumed was beneath you, proves you don't understand that." Rick stiffened. "Mr. Grant, please. I made a mistake, I admit it, but you can't fire me over one misunderstanding." Marcus studied him. Silence filled the room. Then he turned to Mr. Holloway. "What's the dealership's policy on discrimination?" Mr. Holloway cleared his throat. "Zero tolerance, sir." Marcus nodded slowly. Then he looked Rick straight in the eyes. "Then I guess you have your answer." Rick's breath hitched. You can't be serious." Marcus didn't blink. "I am." Rick's hands clenched into fists. He had never felt so powerless. But this wasn't over. Not yet. Rick's heart pounded. His world was crumbling, and he knew it. "Mr. Grant, please," he begged. "I need this job. I have a family to support." Marcus crossed his arms. "And what about the families of the customers you humiliated? The ones you turned away because of how they looked? Did you think about their struggles?" Rick's face twisted. I was just trying to protect the dealership. We don't have time for people who aren't serious buyers." Marcus stepped closer, his voice firm. "You assumed I wasn't serious based on nothing but my appearance. That's called discrimination, and in my dealership that doesn't fly." Rick's breathing grew unsteady. He turned to Mr. Holloway. "Sir, I've worked under you for 5 years. You know me. You know I'm not a bad guy." Mr. Holloway sighed heavily. "Rick, I vouched for you for years, but after today I can't anymore." Rick's stomach dropped. Lisa, who had been silently watching, took a deep breath. "I've seen you turn away good people, Rick. People who could afford the cars but weren't dressed the way you expected. People you just didn't like." Rick's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally, but there were none. Marcus straightened. "I'm not here to ruin lives, but actions have consequences. You're done here, Rick." Rick staggered back, his mind racing, but just as he turned toward the door, something dark flickered in his eyes. He wasn't leaving without a fight. Rick stormed out of the office, his fists clenched tight. The nerve of Marcus. He couldn't believe how everything had turned against him in just a matter of hours. He had been the top manager, the one who ran things smoothly. Now he was a man without a job, and worse, without his dignity. As he paced through the back hallway, his mind raced. He knew he couldn't just accept this defeat. There had to be something he could do, some way to turn things around. He couldn't let Marcus get away with humiliating him like this. Rick's phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from an old friend, someone who had always known how to manipulate situations in his favor. Rick hesitated for a moment, but then quickly tapped the screen. "I need help. Can you pull some strings for me? I'll owe you big time." He hit send. Meanwhile, Marcus sat quietly in the office watching the scene unfold through the glass. He knew Rick wasn't going to take this lying down. The man had too much pride to just walk away. Marcus, however, was confident in his decision. There was no room for people like Rick in the dealership. Mr. Holloway stood, watching Marcus. "You think he'll go quietly?" Marcus shook his head. "No, I don't. But we can't back down now. The business is bigger than one man's ego." Lisa, who had been silent until now, nodded in agreement. "We're doing the right thing. The customers deserve better. I'm glad you took a stand." As Marcus and Lisa talked, Rick, now outside, watched the building, his thoughts churning with dark plans. He wasn't finished yet. He would make them regret this. Rick stood in the parking lot, staring at the front of the dealership. His heart raced as he thought about everything he had worked for. Years of managing the dealership, building relationships with clients, keeping things running smoothly, all of it was now slipping away from him. But there was no way he was going to let Marcus and the others get away with this. Rick had made his decision. He needed to hit back. He couldn't just let Marcus walk in and take over everything, treating him like some kind of fool. Rick wasn't done yet. He quickly pulled out his phone and made a call to his old connections. "I need you to help me get back at him." Rick's voice was low, simmering with anger. "Do whatever it takes. I want Marcus out, and I want it now." The voice on the other end was calm, but Rick could sense a shift in tone. "I understand, Rick, but this is a dangerous game you're playing. You sure you want to go down this path?" Rick didn't hesitate. "I've got no choice. I'm taking him down." Rick hung up, his decision final. He would use everything in his power to destroy Marcus. Whether it was secrets about the dealership, financial discrepancies, or personal issues that could tear the whole place down, he would use them. He wasn't going down without a fight. Meanwhile, inside the dealership, Marcus and Lisa were still discussing their next steps. Marcus looked out the window, feeling a sense of unease. Something told him that Rick wouldn't just walk away quietly. "You think he'll try to cause trouble?" Lisa asked, watching his reaction. Marcus nodded, his jaw tightening. "I'm sure of it. We need to stay one step ahead of him." Outside, Rick climbed into his car, determination flooding his veins. He was going to show them all. No one could take what was his. This was far from over. Rick's mind raced as he drove away from the dealership. He wasn't just angry, he was consumed with the thought of revenge. Marcus had crossed a line, and now Rick was going to make him pay. He had no intention of letting this slide. It wasn't just about his job anymore. It was about the pride he had built up over the years. Rick spent the next few days gathering information. His contacts delivered what he needed: files, recordings, and details he knew could destroy Marcus. The pieces were falling into place, but Rick knew he couldn't act too quickly. He needed to wait for the perfect moment. Then, one afternoon, Marcus received a mysterious phone call. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, but it carried a sense of urgency. "Mr. Johnson, you've got a problem." The voice was calm, but the tone made Marcus's heart drop. "We've got some information here that could seriously damage your business and your reputation. You need to be careful." Marcus leaned forward, furrowing his brow. "Who is this? What are you talking about?" "Let's just say you've made some enemies, and they know your secrets." The voice hung up abruptly, leaving Marcus staring at his phone in confusion. He wasn't the only one who felt uneasy. Lisa had noticed a shift in his mood ever since the call. She approached him, concern etched on her face. "What's going on, Marcus?" she asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus took a deep breath, trying to shake off the tension. "Someone just called me. They're threatening to expose something. Something I've been trying to keep under wraps." Lisa's eyes widened. What could they possibly know? Marcus hesitated. He couldn't bring himself to tell her the full truth, but deep down, he knew Rick's shadow was looming. The trap had been set. The day had arrived. Rick was ready to make his move. He knew the stakes were high, and this was the moment he had been planning for. His goal was simple: get Marcus to show his true colors and make sure the entire dealership saw it. The dealership was busier than usual. New cars were lined up, the lot filled with excited customers, and the tension in the air was palpable. Marcus had been under pressure for days, the mysterious threat lingering like a storm cloud. He had no idea that his world was about to be flipped upside down. Rick walked into the dealership as the clock struck noon, a sense of calm determination in his eyes. Lisa spotted him immediately, her gaze sharp. She knew something was off. "Rick, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cautious. Rick smiled, his expression one of quiet confidence. "Just wanted to take a look around. Thought I'd see how things are going." He strolled past her, his eyes scanning the room. He wasn't here for small talk. He had a mission. As he passed Marcus's office, he caught the faint sound of a heated argument. Marcus was sitting behind his desk, looking tense. Lisa stood opposite him, her arms crossed. Rick approached, the door creaking as he stepped inside. "Everything okay, Marcus?" Rick asked, his voice dripping with subtle mockery. Marcus shot him a glare, clearly annoyed by his presence. "Just what do you want, Rick?" Before Rick could respond, the phone on Marcus's desk rang. He picked it up without thinking. Marcus Johnson speaking. "It's time, Marcus. The truth is coming out." The voice on the other end sent a chill down Marcus's spine. It was the same mysterious caller. "Who is this?" Marcus shouted, but the line went dead. Rick stood there, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Lisa's gaze shifted between Marcus and Rick, confusion building. "What's going on?" she demanded. Rick walked over to the desk, sliding a folder toward Marcus. "Maybe this will help clear things up." Marcus's hands trembled as he opened the folder, his face draining of color. Inside were photos, documents, and recordings, evidence that could ruin him. Lisa's jaw dropped as she realized what was happening. You set me up." Rick looked at her, his tone cold. "You didn't see this coming? It was always about the power, Lisa. Always about getting what I deserved." Marcus slammed the folder shut, his face a mixture of fury and fear. "You think this will scare me? You're wrong." Rick leaned in close. "No, Marcus, it's not about scaring you. It's about showing the world who you really are." With one final glance at the man who had tried to destroy him, Rick turned and walked out of the office. As he stepped into the sunlight, he knew the game was over. The truth had come to light, and Marcus's empire was crumbling. Rick had won. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more jaw-dropping twists and intense moments, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Hit that notification bell so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. See you in the next one.